Come in. Come into Yizkor. It's an invitation to sit at the table of memories, a table set with grief and flowers, a table filled with tears, some laughter, a table we all sit at eventually, at times alone, and if we're blessed, at times together, remembering our beloveds, remembering our parents, our children, our family, our friends. Remembering and grief is not easy. It's a holy task, and it's a heavy one. This is a year that so many of us wish we did not have to remember. Just this past week, in this sanctuary on October 7th, we read the longest Kaddish list, an almost unimaginably long Kaddish list for almost an hour of names. An entire season of Chagim, of holy days, where October 7th seemed to meet us in the middle, a forceful, difficult, agonizing remembrance, and a continual reckoning with ourselves, our people, the past, and the future too. And then today, Yom Kippur arriving, bringing us back to the rhythm of our holy times, when perhaps October 7th next year will not feel the same way it did this year, where Yizkor is the balance between remembering too much and not wanting to remember anything at all. These final moments of Yom Kippur ask us to truly slow down, to allow ourselves to immerse in memory, to linger, some of those memories beautiful, some painful, but all of them so important. Remembering is complex, because even if we're remembering somebody who loved us so much, all of our relationships are so complex. Some of us here are deeply grieving a recent loss. Some bring memories of a beloved who left you long ago. All of us here, each precious soul in our sanctuary, has lost something or someone this year that is precious to them. And no matter what we each have lost, we also have the ability to be both the comforter and the consoler. The novelist Harry James wrote a letter of consolation to a dear friend, remarkably just after the death of both of his parents. He wrote, "We all live together, and those of us who love and know live so most. We help each other even unconsciously, even in our own effort to lighten the effort of others. We contribute to the sum of success, make it possible for others to live. Sorrow comes in great waves. No one can know that better than you, but it rolls over us. And though it may almost smother us, it leaves us on the spot. And we know that if it is strong, we are stronger. And as much as it passes, and we remain. It wears us, uses us, but we wear it and use it in return. And it is blind, whereas we, after a manner, can still see." So I want to remember someone with you from my life. It's somebody, I have to admit, who was a favorite of mine. Many of us have somebody who's a favorite in our life, like a favorite aunt, a favorite grandparent, a favorite cousin, but we never use that word. We just feel it inside. My paternal family, the Strilkis, left Kerch on the Black Sea in Russia in 1900, running away from Tsar Nicholas, who had already taken too many of our family members who were part of the Bolshevik Revolution. I say they left, but more accurately, like so many of our ancestors, of our own family members, they escaped. They fled from a place that was at best unfriendly and at worst existentially dangerous to our people. My aunts were jailed by the Tsar's army, and their brothers, my uncles, were beheaded. Their descendants journeyed across the Atlantic in the great ship, the Wilhelm Kaiser, from Russia to Ellis Island, where they finally made their way to Chicago. Everyone for the next 3 generations was born in Chicago. And from a family of 8 children in Russia, almost all of them had only a single child in the next generation. So instead of those children in Chicago growing up like cousins, they grew up like siblings. So my dad's cousin, Audrey, who was like my aunt, she was always my favorite. She was gorgeous and funny and bold and brash, and she wore delicious perfume and lots of makeup, and she had high heels and beautiful clothes. She had a sultry, kind of raspy voice like a movie star, and to me, it always seemed like she was living in a different time. What I imagined as a kid, the good old days must have been like. Above all, she was incredibly loving, warm, and effusive, and she knew how and when to show up. She told us story after story after story about how our family got to Chicago, about my grandparents' great love affair, my father's crazy antics, how he was given the nickname Wilder in Yiddish, or the wild one, and stories of her travels with her husband, my cousin Jack, around the globe. Coming from a world of immigrant parents, she was the first in a generation who was born Jewish and American. She had an overwhelming joie de vivre and an incredible memory. She was our family's memory keeper. She was one of the first people to hold me when I was born, and she kept showing up for the next 5 decades of my life. She was a mom, a grandma, and a great-grandma, and she was the cousin we all turned to. She also said whatever she wanted, whenever she wanted to anybody she would care to have listened to her words. She never minced words, and we all kind of feared her and also admired her for that. I danced with her at her grandson's wedding and saw her face light up each time she held one of her great-granddaughters and smothered them with kisses. A few weeks ago, at the age of almost 98, my beloved cousin Audrey died in West Palm Beach, Florida, where a lot of old Jews end up dying. She always had a story that was at least as funny as anybody else's story, and she loved hearing my rabbi stories. But whenever I would share a story with her, she'd say, "You should hear mine about my rabbi, it's funnier." So today I'm going to share her Yizkor story in memory of my beloved cousin Audrey. Audrey's Yizkor story came several years ago when a dear friend of hers got diagnosed with cancer just after Rosh Hashanah, and she called her rabbi to tell him to put her friend Cheryl on the Misha Berach, the healing list, after Rosh Hashanah. It was that Yizkor, that Yom Kippur, just a few days later, where Audrey was sitting, well, right there where you're sitting, Alan and Rita, in the second row of the synagogue. And lo and behold, during the reading of the Yizkor list, the rabbi stood up and read all of the names, and he got to the L's, and he read, Audrey Larman. Her name. She was sitting in the second row. Imagine what it would be like to hear your name read on the Kaddish list at Yizkor, the holiest day of the year. She was in her early 90s. She was like 94 years old. So Audrey stood up. First, she addressed the rabbi. Rabbi! Rabbi, she said, "I'm okay, I'm right here." "Don't worry, everybody, I'm still here," she said. I'm okay. I'm not even sick. I'm not even on the other list, she said. She blew a kiss to the crowd and sat down. She said, "Sydney Beth, I wish you could have seen the look on the rabbi's face." I said, "No, I never want to see a look like that on a rabbi's face, Audrey." You realize what happened, right? She went to put her friend on the Misha Berach list, and the rabbi's secretary, always the rabbi's secretary gets blamed for this, put Audrey's name on the Kaddish list by accident. When she told me that, I said, "You know what? One day, hopefully not soon, I'm going to be telling that story about you on Yizkor." It's a funny story. It always made me laugh when I told it, but today, it's not that funny because she's not here. She's not sitting in the congregation. I wish she was sitting in the second row right now and stand up and say, "Rabbi, no, I'm right here. I'm not on the Kaddish list. I'm not even sick." But that's not how things end for any of us. She's not there. She's right here. She's where all of our loved ones continue to live, right in my heart. We keep them close. We keep their essence, their presence, their stories alive through this great power we have of memory. They are the inspiration to be better people, to become ancestors that we can admire, and to bring more joy into the world. The stories of our people, of our families, make us laugh and they make us cry. During Rosh Hashanah, the Torah readings are stories about our matriarch and patriarch, Abraham and Sarah, who after so many years in their old age have a son. When Sarah hears that she will bear a child at 100 years old, instead of getting angry or not believing, she actually laughs at God. And when her son is born, she names him Yitzchak. He will laugh. At a most painful moment in our life, our ancestors found the ability to laugh, to feel joy, and even be immersed at a time when there was death all around them in the gift of life. There have been so many tears this past year, not enough laughter. Too much sorrow, not enough simcha. Psalm 126 reminds us, those who sow in tears will reap in joy. This Yizkor, this service of memory, this Yom Kippur, may our tears of sorrow mingle with the sounds of love and of laughter. May our memories of those we have lost sustain us, and may the presence of the Holy One shield us, lift us up, and give us the strength to build a world this year filled with peace, shalom, ahava, love, and finally, with some tikva. Amen.